to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name is Eric and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing The Void, aka horror fans like to sound smart by saying this was influenced by H.P. Lovecraft. I'm the host of the show. Joining me tonight, first up, joining us from who knows where, he was late, his name is Mark.
It's been a couple weeks, so I wanted to make sure you guys had the authentic Mark experience.
Yeah. Joe went on a legit rant about it. Like it wasn't even a joke. He was upset.
Fucking millennials.
I thought I was upset, and then Joe started ranting, and I got scared, so...
It's been a day, guys. It's been a day.
Next up on the show, he drinks beer. He rants about things. He's coming from Chicago. His name is Joe.
That's right. All those things are right.
Next up on the show,
Hi, everybody.
host of the Instamatic, coming to you from Indiana. His name is Casey.
Hello.
And last up tonight,
Who's Deanna?
coming to you from Manhattan, New York City. His name is John
New
Schwartz.
York City!
It's too bad,
Hey.
So
Joe.
nice they named it
It's
twice.
too bad, John. I mean, it's cool you live in New York, but it's too bad you don't live in the capital region of New York.
Yeah, you know, it's... We look up to the capital region.
Right.
We aspire.
That's where all the city
So-
business is done, you know?
Yeah, yes. The state's business, for sure,
Yeah.
which we take very seriously here in New York City. So.
That's where you meet Joe Black.
That's right. I don't know.
He lived in Poughkeepsie in that movie.
I don't understand that joke, but that's a great joke.
You guys have never seen Meet Joe Black?
No.
I mean, I'm familiar with the film.
It's
I
classic.
didn't know he lived in Poughkeepsie.
Oh, yeah.
was he like
Alright.
was he like an angel or something?
He was the devil, actually.
Wait, really?
Yeah. It's a really good movie. You guys should seriously check it out.
It's like 2.5 hours long.
It flies by.
It was... it
Did
was
you
on
guys just switch
VHS.
places?
I
The
know.
next episode of the Eric Show should be about Meet Joe Black. Just Eric's one-person first-time review of Meet Joe Black.
Oh.
I think John and Joe just switched places because Joe's like, it's a really good movie. John's like, that shit's 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
It is long.
Joe's like, no, it's great. It's subtitled and everything. I love it.
I was gonna say, that's-
Well, John Schnars,
Yes, Eric.
we've been doing a lot of things lately. We have a Patreon, which is a
Yeah, we do.
platform where fans and listeners of the show can pledge a certain amount every month, and in return, well, for one, they get the warm feeling in their cockles that they're helping support the show, but also they get a bunch of other exclusive things. We've been making an effort to. It's been 2 years since we launched, and when we had our big BGH business meeting / Alcoholics Anonymous gathering, although I guess it wasn't really anonymous.
No, everyone knew who everyone was.
We
so.
came up with a plan to sort of some extra things we could do for patrons, and we are slowly rolling some of that stuff out. One thing, which actually wasn't even from that business meeting, it was just from the glory of my mind, was the Eric Show.
Yes, yeah.
That
No,
is-
that was number one.
Episode 2 of that now in your Patreon feeds. The second,
you may have
That's
noticed
it, actually.
from
We're-
the,
That was
actually
definitely
stopping
not
there.
discussed or wanted by anyone. on the show.
It's gone so well.
I
We're
ve-
done.
In fact, I very specifically discussed it with no one before I did it, just because I wanted to just get it in the can, make it a thing.
you may recognize it from the top news section of CNN that Eric, in
Yes.
fact, has his own show.
But the second thing, John, the second actionable item to come out of our plannings is literally you're gonna hit the D-Day switch, like when we're done with the show. Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, so we are opening up the BGH Slack team. So, you
And
know,
what
people
is-
who listen to
What is Slack for people who don't know?
Yeah, so Slack is a communication platform. I don't know. It's like a thing that people use to talk to each other on the internet. It's like texting, but like group texting, but then like everybody can do it at once and you can like send things. It makes a lot more sense when you see it. A lot of people use it at work. It's like popular in I don't know, like creative jobs, and my work we use it, Mark's work, I think.
You can say nerds. You can say it's a thing.
Yeah,
that
it's like a
nerds use.
nerd type. A lot of engineers use it at their jobs, that kind of stuff. So
Glasses people.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, glasses people.
No, but so we've actually been using it for Bloody Good Horror. We've talked about it, I think, on the show maybe once or twice. But we use it to kind of just like internally coordinate. And so we have a lot of fun there too. And there's a lot of screwing around. There's a lot of wasted business hours, I would say, which we don't
lot.
like our companies to know about. But
A
you
lot
know
of
that definitely happens.
Many gifts. All the gifts.
I was gonna say if by using it as a tool to coordinate behind the scenes of Bloody Good Horror, you mean videos of Joe singing on his deck.
Oh.
I mean, personal effects are shared. No, and so it's something that we've been using. We really enjoy it. We've got there's about 20 of us from the Bloody Good Horror sort of staff, if you will, that are on there, and we're going to throw it open to anyone who supports on Patreon at the $3 and up level. So the $3, $6, and $10 tiers. As you said, I'm going to send out invites as soon as the show's done, and we're pretty interested to see how it goes. I mean,
so it's basically like a message board that all of us, including us, all the writers, all the new class, are on every single day. And I'm not lying when I tell you, like, literally all day. Like, there is a conversation happening almost all day long. And now you guys who are supporting us can come and just be a part of that every day if you want. If you want to spend your whole fucking day on there, you can.
Oh yeah.
And you
I
can,
mean,
And we've
you
added
can,
a bunch of new rooms too this week for you patrons out there.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity, I think, to interact with us in a more direct and a little more, dare I say, intimate way, Schnars, than like Twitter or something. Which
it's intimate.
It's like Christmas if the only present you wanted was more creative ways to waste your time.
Yeah. John, do you think maybe we could get a channel for the Eric Show discussion?
I mean, we could. That's
Can you make it private and have it only be Eric so he can just talk to himself?
That's all he's asking for.
Just throwing that out there.
I mean,
mirror on the wall.
So if people are interested, you can read about it on the site. If you do support on Patreon, you'll see it. Like, it's in the list of posts. I just posted it up today on Wednesday the 3rd. There's information there, and I'll just be adding new folks as they come in. It might take a day or two. It's something we got to do manually. So give me a day or so to get you up there. But yeah. We don't know how this is going to go, but we are excited to find out.
Not well. I think we're all pretty sure.
We're excited. We're excited.
Cool. Thank you, John. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Are we still on Snapchat?
We are. I just snapped the shit out of us.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't.
That's what happens at the beginning of every episode when Joe very visibly points his phone at the screen.
I start taking dick pics.
I didn't feel anything. Should I have felt something?
Although I read today that the millennials are not using the Snapchats anymore, and we may switch over because Instagram now has like their own like Snapchat type.
Oh, I thought it was going to be they were going to move on to something else. It's like I can't.
I'm gonna switch us over to Grindr. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is, but I've heard a lot of people are really into it.
I'm aware of this, Joe, because now Instagram gives you that weird feed of like something on the top, I guess, and I can't really figure out what.
Schnars is quite familiar with it.
Like how
it's stories.
I can't really figure out how that's being curated versus just my flipping through my shit. Like I don't really understand.
It's the exact same thing as Instagram.
Yeah, they legit stole it straight out of Snapchat.
Like, so it's the same thing that I'm seeing when I scroll. It's just being presented to me in a different way.
No, you can take. So you have to decide if your picture is Snapchat timeline worthy or if it's just like, hey, here's a little something I'm doing right now, but I don't want this to be remembered for the rest of my life.
Yeah, because it disappears.
The stuff scrolling on top is just like a little video or something somebody posted Snapchat style that will go away.
Exactly. Yep.
It's a great way to post all 3 of your meals throughout the day.
I spend literally all day on a computer, and like I still find things that really confuse me. I cannot even imagine what life is like in 2017 for somebody who doesn't even get computers. Like, I don't understand.
I mean, I think even like my grandma, who's like 90, like quote unquote, gets computers at this point.
John, you'd be surprised.
Well, it's really a question of like, what do you mean by get? Whatever. We don't
Oh
need
my
to get
god,
on this
I
right
almost
away.
lost it today because we had an email go around at work that was
Well,
like,
that depends on what do you mean by what, John?
Yeah, what do you mean, you
I mean,
people?
to be fair, my 75-year-old mother-in-law tells us every day, I Googled it.
Yeah,
There you go.
fine, there you go.
we had
I want to know what the email was at work, Eric.
yeah, we had an email go around at work today that was like freaking out from IT. Like, if you see this email, do not click on it. And it was like,
Oh,
liter-
the
so-
Google Doc thing.
well,
Yeah.
no, I don't think that's it though, because this literally, I look at it, they screen snapped it, and I can't imagine. Like
They
this would be,
snapped it.
I can't imagine this email would have been sent out if somebody hadn't already clicked on it. And the email address that it was sent from was like 30 H's, just HHHHH at like mailwiz.bang or something. And I'm like,
That's the same thing Joe's talking about.
I
We got that
literally
same
wanted to
email
hit
at work.
reply
And
all.
so did we.
I literally wanted to hit reply all and be like, could you please furnish me the list of who clicked on this, because I think they should immediately be fired.
No,
Well,
that's
dude, like
I don't
the,
get it
I mean,
either.
I'm sure we all ended up on the endless reply all chain. That was just people telling other people to stop replying all.
Oh
Yep.
god.
Or was that just me?
You know what's funny, Mark? At my office, they sent that message out through Slack, and that didn't happen. So
Dude, that's what
Oh.
happens when you work
There-
at a company of 25,000 people. It's like
There-
you just never really know. It's pretty
Yeah.
My
amazing
company,
how
I have the
quickly.
power to say stop that shit and stop
Yeah.
that email right as it goes.
Well, I was just imagining like it went on for about 15 minutes, and I thought my phone was going to catch on fire because it was vibrating so much. And all I
But
can
that's a good
imagine,
use, sir.
it like, oh yeah, there you go. It finally stopped, and I could just imagine a bunch of like people with like sweaty brows hovering over the reply all button, like, should I do it? Should I do it? And then they all just collectively gave up.
are they doing it like for fun, or?
I think not originally, and then I think it was people making fun of the people who were doing the
Yeah,
replies.
yeah.
There's no way to know, really.
Unsubscribe? Yeah, the only proper thing to do is just ignore it.
It's a vicious
Yep.
cycle.
Because even if you reply and complain about the reply alling, you're almost just as bad.
And I think we can all agree the best thing to do is just to never check your work email. I think that's probably just the best way to deal with it.
Well, I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to, because I don't answer my phone, so I assume if it was important, they would email me. So I can't do.
I mean, I was
not do
just
both
making a
things.
joke,
Yeah.
but thank you for letting me know that
That's
it
fair.
is important that you check your work.
Sorry,
Oh,
Mark.
this is good. This is thrilling.
Sorry,
this is
Mark.
what people want to hear.
It's not going to work.
This is the kind of excitement you guys are going to get, but in text form on the Slack channel.
Slack. Yeah.
So what's that patron site again, John?
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Casey. Casey, talk to me
Yes.
about Cinema Fromage.
What?
Talk to me. about-
Yes, so a couple years ago, if you follow me at all,
What do you
Cinema
mean,
Fromage was my old website from years and years ago when we started Bloody Good Horror. And then a couple years ago, my lovely wife and I had a podcast out called Cinema Fromage where we discussed B movies. We had rules built around it. The B movies were it had to be a B movie, never had a theatrical release, and it was had to be one that my wife and I had not seen. So we now have all 32 back episodes of Cinema Fromage out there for the Patreons in the archives with the backups of the show. So if you're in that tier, you'll get access to those, hear about all sorts of B movies and such. So go out and check that out. You'll have some greats like The Majorettes, Zombeaver, which we did cover here. There's a couple on here there that we did cover here that were recorded there before here, so it still fit the rules. So if anybody's a rules horror out there.
So wait,
Rules
when
horse
we
need
did
not
that,
apply.
Zombeaver Spooktacular, that was in fact the second time you had seen that movie.
Oh, it was like the third time because we watched it at Hocking Hills too.
Wow.
I don't even remember Zombievers.
You may be the only person in the
I-
world who's seen Zombievers thrice.
I
Um,
remember
well,
being
We did a
fairly lit up.
spectacular on it, right?
I hate to spoil it
Yeah.
for you, but I've seen it 4 times. So
And
Oh, damn.
and Casey, those episodes haven't been available for a while, right? So this is the first time
Right.
they've been online in a while. So you can
yeah,
check. How do they get the
most of Cinema Fromage has been shut down these days. So yeah, this is where you're going to access them.
How do they get those, John? It's just in the app.
So I'm putting that. Well, what I'm gonna do, they'll all patrons will get an email, and there's basically a classics folder the same way we do with all the other classics.
Okay, cool.
So, but we'll send out a separate email about it, or a separate post, so people will be able to find it.
Love it.
Buddy.
All right, John. This week we're reviewing The Void. What do we got coming up here in a few weeks?
So it's actually interesting. So next week we have Blackcoat's Daughter. This is another one that's been kind of floating around. It's been recommended to us a couple times. It finally got an official release, so it's out. Folks can see it. We're going to be watching it. Then I don't know if you guys have heard of this at all, but I just checked the release schedule. They are slipping in a movie called Dead Awake.
Oh.
Has anyone heard anything about this?
No.
That just sounds like two words.
The theaters?
In the theaters, this is getting
No,
a quote unquote wide release, according to Box Office Mojo. I've never heard of it.
Dead Awake.
It is getting a release on 5/12, so we will actually be back in the theater on the 12th, and then on the 19th, there's a little film hitting your theaters called Alien Covenant.
Yay. Fun.
So
Lori Petty.
there you go.
She was on Father Dowling's Mysteries, John.
Yeah, so Dead Awake, I have no idea what it is, but it's coming.
Cool.
Then
Also
we'll have
stars Jocelyn Donahue of House of the Dead and Insidious Chapter 2 fame.
There you go. We'll have a couple weeks off after that, and then we actually hit. There's basically like a month and a half straight in the theater, which should be interesting. With some films like It Comes at Night, Amityville: The Awakening, The Mummy.
Oh God.
No.
We get
I'm
Warfare.
sorry, it was Tracy Nelson, John. It was Tracy Nelson who was on Father Dowling.
If
Mysteries.
we,
there you go.
I would be okay if we want to skip The Mummy. I'm just putting that out there right now.
Well, so
Since-
The Mummy actually comes out the same week as another film. It Comes at Night, which is I think we talked about the trailer.
We should definitely do that instead.
Since Joe gets to pitch a fit like twice a year about movies he doesn't want to review, I think that I'm picking The Mummy.
The Mummy, I would have no quams with. All right,
Well,
see, like Office Christmas Party or whatever the hell you wanted us to do.
Hold on. All right. I'm slipping The Mummy into an currently open week. We can make the call later. We have like a month.
Can't we just compromise and review The Mummy Comes at Night?
I've seen that movie.
Mark.
It's a lot different.
Oh,
You're not going to get that in a regular theater.
Yeah. But it still stars
The
Tom
Mummy
Cruise.
Unwrapped.
He's got all that tissue paper right there, so he's all ready to go. Clean it up.
Well played, Eric. Well played.
Hey,
Thank you for hitting that softball that I lobbed.
Hey, Joe.
Heyo.
What are we drinking tonight while we make jokes about mummy semen?
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin to how to explain The Void or how this movie ties in, but there's a lot of pregnancy going on in this movie.
That's fair.
And in honor of that, I picked a beer from the good folks at De Claw Brewing Company down in where the hell they're located? In Maryland, Bel Air, Maryland, which I believe is where The Fresh Prince was filmed.
That's not a place.
It's apparently. And this is their Sweet Baby Jesus. That's right. It's a chocolate peanut butter porter, which sounds just as delicious as you might think it is. Porter, we've talked about it before, pretty much, kind of on the same lines as like a stout. I find usually they're a little more, usually have a little more of like a coffeeness to them, whereas stouts can, vary from like being very sweet to, God knows what the hell's going on there. This one they brew with peanut butter and cocoa nibs. So it's a really, really good beer if you can get your hands on it. DeClaw distributes fairly well on the East Coast and I think in the Midwest. I don't know how far they get out on the West, but this one I want to say is like you hear a lot about it. People trying to track this one down, and it's very good if you can. So like you'd expect, like you get a lot of those like sort of chocolatey coffee notes, but the peanut butter kind of comes in at the end, but not like super overpowering or anything. Like they balance really well. So it's definitely it's one of my favorite beers. Comes in at about 6.5% alcohol, so not like super high, but still up there a little bit. And yeah, their website is Duclaw, DUCLAW.com. And yeah, I mean, all the stuff they put out is usually pretty good, so you should definitely check it out.
Joe, how many of these could you drink and then drive your kid to softball practice?
To softball? I mean, well, it depends how far away the field is, but I'd say 4 or 5, without running the risk of any problems.
I mean, just
I've
move
had
closer to the
6, so
softball
I'll
field.
stay home. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that, Joe.
Thank you.
That's the beer recommendation. We actually have some music we're going to get going for Joe. I just didn't have time this week.
No.
But we finally have some music. We're gonna
Because I haven't had time to make my contribution to the music part.
Well, if you
literally
don't-
would take you 2 seconds.
if
you
you
son of
don't
a-
if you don't send it in by the time I have the music ready, then it's just not happening. It's just gonna be music. So there's your motivation.
Okay.
All right, guys, it is time. Let us review The Void.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
Jonathan Shanners,
Eric.
Belfry the Third, Schnorrs.
That's what I go by.
Yeah,
Belfry.
yeah. Remember that time I found pictures of German princes from like World War One that looked exactly like you? That was
Yeah,
so
no,
cool.
that was
I
last
fucking-
week.
I blocked it out.
That's every week.
I think about that a
That's
lot.
your other new podcast, the Spank Bank with Eric.
Just very slowly reading the names of German princesses. Or princes.
Eldrick von Mueller. Anyway,
Yeah. How we doing, Eric?
Duke. hey, Dookie boy, what you got for us tonight?
Oh man, you're getting lazy.
Too fat boy.
All my energy is going to pre-proing the Eric show. I don't have time for this anymore, John.
You didn't even see the movie. Fuck it.
Eric, today's word is
I almost accidentally watched The Black Coat's Daughter, so that would have been funny.
today's word is lacuna. Lacuna.
Lacuna Matata.
Oh,
It's
you
actually where
literally
it
beat
came
me to
from.
that.
I knew I can
Yeah,
see
well,
that.
good. I'm glad no one was going to make the Lacuna Beach joke. Because
Oh, God.
I can s- no, I
All
can
And I
see
want to
it.
say, like, I know it's a rare word, but I feel like you may have done that before because I feel like I've made that joke before in the show.
No, come
I could-
on. I would remember lacuna.
isn't Lacuna Coil like a bad band? That's like a band name.
Oh,
Like, it's
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
All
John.
right. Do you guys want to know what it means? Nah, let's just move on.
I
Let's
don't really
let's
care.
just keep going.
All right. I'd prefer to just make puns.
The lacuna means an unfilled space or interval, a gap, a cavity or depression, especially in bone. I don't know. That's weird. It comes to us from lacus, the Latin lacus, or like it eventually mutates to lacuna in Latin, which means pool.
You said that.
lacuna.
Pretty sure it means no worries, John, for the rest of your days. A problem-free philosophy.
I mean, hey, it can mean a lot of things, Joe. It can mean whatever you need it to mean.
You said that Latin so daintily, Schnars. Like lacus.
Lacus.
Love it. Tell me what this movie's about.
The Void. Let's just go ahead and say I'm probably not going to use any of the characters' names. I'm not sure what they are, and they're not that
You
important.
could go with white woman and white man.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure all of the characters were white. Mark.
White woman 1, white woman 2.
So we should say up front a couple things. This is a Canadian film. I'm not sure if anyone knew that going in, but it sort of clears up some things, I think, having seen it. The directors, Jeremy Gillespie and Stephen Kostanski, best known to this crowd as the directors of a certain film called Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
They were two of, I believe, like 4 or 5.
That makes sense. I can see that.
They've done, so that's the only other feature they've done, or I should say it's the only one that Jeremy's done. The Stephen Kostanski's been involved in a bunch of stuff.
First name
They-
basis with Jeremy. Okay.
Yeah, Jeremy and I go way back. They have, though, done a bunch of sort of like backup, sort of assistant directing and a lot of like art department work. So they're actually both listed on the credits of the new It film that's coming out. They also both worked on Suicide Squad, things like Poltergeist. So they've got kind of an interesting background in working in effects, working like on sets of some of these bigger films. This is obviously a much smaller film. It's the story. So let's say it centers around this cop. His name's Daniel Carter. He arrives at a hospital. Just prior to him arriving at this hospital, we see a guy who has been chased through the woods after escaping a house, also arrive at this hospital. The hospital has recently undergone a fire, so it's actually in the process of being shut down, and there's like sort of not much going on sort of at this hospital. It's like basically like one of the last couple days. Oh, actually, I guess the cop brings the injured guy to the hospital. That's how they both get there together. Sorry, it's not that important. Once they arrive,
How dare you?
just to set the scene, like sort of once they arrive,
Shit together.
there's basically like 4 or 5 other people at the hospital. There's 3 nurses. There's one doctor who's sort of like on call, and then there is like an old man, and I guess his granddaughter, who is very pregnant. And she's like kind of meant to look like a teen, like late teens, not like super inappropriate, but definitely like a younger woman. And then she's there with sort of this older man, which is sort of, I think, meant to be a little wonky, and it kind of comes back
Tawdry.
later. So yeah, this cop arrives. He arrives with this guy who's they're arriving under somewhat mysterious circumstances. The hospital itself is kind of creepy, and immediately upon arriving, like weird shit starts to happen. Probably the weirdest thing is these like robed figures start appearing outside the hospital and are actually blocking folks from exiting. They attack the cop when he tries to go out to the car. And then, so from there, we see, I can't even remember, the nurse basically goes into the room of the guy who has been brought in by the cop. And the cop kind of like walks in after her, and he walks in on her stabbing him in the eye. And she has essentially started to like peel the skin away from her face. And she's just like, in general, acting crazy. She turns to like attack the cop, and he basically has to shoot her, and he puts her down. He then kind of like, they go, and he's like talking to another cop who has shown up on the scene at that point, and who's like a state trooper. So there's like a little bit of back and forth. And as they like go to like walk back to this scene, this room where this woman is, she has now mutated into this like tentacle monster. This like, she's like taking up the entire hallway. She eats the other cop.
Right.
And just like generally crazy things start to transpire from there.
That's a very nonchalant delivery of "she eats the cop."
she consumes him.
NBD, she eats the cop.
Yeah, his soul is consumed into the fires of hell. Yeah, I mean, I don't like, I'm like somewhat losing track of exactly what happens. At some point, the police officer, the main character cop, gets knocked unconscious and starts having like these like wacky visions of the void, essentially. Like, it's one of these things that it's almost impossible to put into words, because it's just, there's just footage of these dark expanses, clouds, like black clouds rolling over. I mean, very strange, very sort of like off-putting, uncanny.
So yeah, at that point, like they're stuck in the hospital. The crazy cult people are like outside. You've got the grandfather and his pregnant granddaughter.
Yeah, I think it was the granddaughter.
You've got the nurse who doesn't know what she's doing. I think the other two
She's like-
nurses are dead
like
or
an
something,
intern.
right? You've got the cop and his ex-wife nurse, and then you've got these 2 dudes who rolled in because they were chasing the junkie, and the junkie's in the hospital too. And he like was basically lured. The guy from the beginning was lured into a house, promised drugs, but then unwittingly became part of some weird cult ritual.
Yeah.
Escaped, which is what we see in the beginning. So they're all at the hospital now. They're stuck in because of the druid fucking whatever void. You know what they reminded me of? They reminded me of Starman from Pro Wrestling on the NES. I think
Yeah.
and then they decide to go down into the basement for some reason. I can't remember why. There's some
Yeah,
shit
well,
happening.
so I mean, we should set up like these 2 guys who arrive. You're right. So they arrive basically right after the main cop gets eaten, and they're the only 2 dudes who like really know what the hell's going on. Essentially, it's revealed and kind of like, there's some exposition where they explain that they've basically been like battling with this cult or against this cult for like a while. So these figures in white that are outside, and they've like arrived at this hospital, and they feel like this is like, okay, we're at this hospital, this is the epicenter, there's something going on here that we have to put a stop to. So they arrive in like fairly heavily armed, and they're just like gonna go to work. Yeah, I mean, they don't go to the basement for like another 35 minutes. So there's like a bunch of kind of like running around in the hospital that goes on. There's a sequence where they have to go out to the car and they're like a little concerned. They don't see any of the hooded characters and then they like appear. One of them attacks them. It's, there's like a bunch of sort of like, quote unquote filler stuff. But yeah, eventually to your point, they have to go down to the basement. We probably don't want to like spoil exactly what the hell goes on, but maybe we do. I don't know. So we can probably stop there for now.
Sure. Hey, Mark, what did you think of this movie?
I thought that this movie was kind of nutty. I thought the effects were really cool. I thought, especially in the beginning, like when you're trying to get your bearings, I thought the tension was really awesome. There's a lot of just like really cool visuals in this. I love the visuals of the cultists with the triangle faces. I thought was really cool and kind of a memorable visual. Lots of awesome practical effects. I think by the end it gets a little hard to follow, which I think is the intention of the movie. It just depends on how on board you are with having something super obtuse. And we can kind of talk about the whole Lovecrafty aspect of it. But as far as being really stylish and memorable, I thought it was pretty good, even though it wasn't like, super tight in the end.
Joe.
Toy.
What?
What?
Yeah, I'm probably not far off from Mark. I mean, there's a lot, and I think Eric, you first brought it up over the emails. There's a lot of sort of unanswered questions in this. Like it's hard to piece together at first, but at the end, I think they kind of tie things up. The practical effects of this, I think, are what really kind of drive the movie. The monsters are really just amazing. Like especially there's a scene where they're kind of in this room trying to get to the bad guy. And there's just like one after another. You see these things coming out of like the black, and it's really, the stuff is done really well, and like super impressive in this day and age. But I think the very end, which I guess we can kind of talk about, I thought was a little like it really wasn't worth the time. Like the payoff really wasn't worth what we had just kind of gone through. Like I almost wish they had kind of cut it off at a certain point, but then they kind of tack on this like last 3 minutes, which I thought was a little bit of a waste. But overall, I thought it was, a lot of fun and like something different from what we've seen in a while.
Casey.
Yeah, I'm pretty on board with everybody else. I love this flick. I love the practical effects. I like the story. I like the Lovecraftianness of it. At the same time, I am much in agreement. There is a certain point in this movie at the ending of it where they went one step too far, and I could have done without that. But it didn't really diminish it because there's a lot of nutty shit going on throughout this. I'm like a one that likes to argue that too much of horror coming out of Hollywood is too much the same and pretty tame and all this stuff. This was the first movie in a while when the credits rolled. I was like, what the fuck just happened? And that's a good thing.
John.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed watching this. I probably didn't. I mean, I was like pretty tolerant of some of the like looseness in the script. I think in retrospect, the middle sequence is like really uneven. Like it's a hard movie because it's fairly low budget. I mean, we don't have the exact numbers, but it actually like just by watching it doesn't feel low budget, but like you sort of suspect it has to be based on the fact that it's shot entirely sort of in one location. There are some like really awesome practical effects, but otherwise there's like a lot of kind of parts of this movie where like not a lot's happening, or they're trying to use like some interesting cinematography or even just like kind of like off-putting or jarring juxtapositions to kind of like throw you off like that. They kind of like try to get a lot of traction out of that stuff, or a lot of mileage. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work as well. Overall though, I think I agree. Like it does some like really different things. I was surprised when I was reading about the directors and sort of like seeing that they had come from Father's Day. I mean, it's been a hot second since we talked about that movie, but it's definitely a movie I like still remember watching because it was so bonkers crazy.
It's kind of garbagey too in a lot of ways.
Oh, well, it was very much in that sort of like exploitation, like Planet Terror, that kind of trying to riff on some of the like machete stuff that was going on at the time. This This is like a little more traditional in a lot of ways. I think it riffs back on a lot of like 80s stuff in actually like a really positive way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I would recommend this to people, but at the same time, like I didn't like I had reservations about it as well.
Yeah, I really liked this one. I agree. Like, kind of my favorite part is the way that it wears its influences on its sleeve. Like, I think you see pieces of like something like From Beyond. I think it reminded me at times of In the Mouth of Madness in the sense that they're both obviously taking cues from Lovecraft. Actually, kind of towards the end, reminded me of Hellraiser 2.
We got, I think, a few comments on Twitter of people saying that too.
Hellraiser TOO in the sense of
Yeah.
like, and even Hellraiser 2, like a person who is getting very close to evil in order to gain some kind of power, and it just sort of consumes them, and then to sort of get a glimpse of hell the way we do towards the end is, I thought, pretty neat. They're doing a ton with what seems like a really limited budget. And even the moments where the effects feel a little janky, it's like in an endearing way, because you can still kind of feel the love that's put into it, and they're approaching it from this old school way that's really easy to get behind, I think. And even though like I did a fair amount of complaining on email about the how vague a lot of it is and open to interpretation, kind of what Casey's talking about, it an interesting comparison that came up was Baskin, which was a movie that I actually super hated. And the huge difference was that this movie gave me enough of a grounding that with the stuff that it didn't give me, I was able to tolerate. Whereas Baskin,
I mean, and there also wasn't just like a scene with a bunch of weird bloody people fucking each other.
I mean,
so there was-
yeah, Eric,
like-
this movie,
But
this
no,
movie was
but
in
it's-
English,
it's
so
my
you
same-
like
That
probably
is
understood
macabre.
more of
but
what was
it's my,
going on.
it's my same problem with a lot of like David Lynch movies, is that he doesn't give me enough to hold on to. Like, I need just enough of a base so I can get my bearings, and I don't need you to spoon feed everything to me and tell me everything. I'm even fine with the ending. Like, the ending's weird and vague, but visually it was cool, and I was totally fine with it because I was grounded enough throughout the story that it brought me to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like this stuff didn't even really bother me. Like, you just kind of
It's-
have to going
Yes,
in.
it did.
You got to know it's kind of low budget, and you got to know what you're getting into. But I could see a lot of our listeners getting something out of this film.
well, it's a really tough thing to land, right? To be, I think for movies like this, and you listed like a ton of other sort of similar films. I mean, even something like Hellraiser, there is a lot that is intentionally left vague so that the viewer or the person watching it can interpret for themselves, right? Like that makes it scarier,
And that's
because
what
you're like, I don't know what this is about.
I don't pretend to be an expert because, as we know, I hate books. But my understanding of Lovecraft and his work was that a lot of it's unknowable and unexplainable, and it's very much about like describing the depth of the horror without really describing it specifically visually, or
Well,
what I
yeah,
mean?
it is there's not words to describe it, right? But
literally.
like, no, but my point was like, there are films. I think I agree with you in that like this actually like threads the needle pretty well. I think there are times where it probably over explains. Like there are some, they like tread really close to like straight up exposition dumps at a couple points, but they actually do a good job of like, not quite overstepping in that regard. Because like we've all seen movies where they like literally like a bunch of weird shit happens and then they like really explain it, and it's like it just, I don't know, it feels like a lot of wasted energy.
Well, the
prior.
guy's voice was super creepy too, which helped with the delivery.
Oh,
The doctor.
That guy, who was like that guy was awesome. I thought he was
Hello.
perfect for that.
You know who
character.
he reminded? It reminded me of the voice from. This is kind of weird. The voice from the short Father's Day from Holidays or whatever that movie was called, kind of reminded me of that voice. If you go back, to
He's
it.
been in a ton of stuff. Like, it's probably, it would not be crazy if you like recognize him from something, but I don't know.
Oh, that would be crazy.
Yeah, he's kind of got
kinda
a.
generic old man vibe.
I
going
thought it
on.
was Malcolm McDowell when he first came on.
I was gonna say he does have Malcolm McDowell look to him.
I
McDowell
100,
Jace.
I 100% thought that it was Malcolm McDowell as well.
Oh, he's in
He-
Legends of the Fall. That's probably where we know him from.
He is. He's like I say, he's been in a ton of stuff. So, yeah, No, I mean, I thought the acting was definitely one of the negatives on this. Um, the the cop is asked to carry a lot of this movie, and he's okay. Um, I
It's
think
totally
that's
like it has this throwback
Yeah.
feel to it, where it's like
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm
And I
guessing
think
that
he fits in well with
these-
that throwback feel.
Yeah, like it's not like they're acting like intentionally poorly. It's just kind of the quality of it. But like this movie could have been made 20 years ago.
But-
well,
but,
actually,
like-
or maybe 30 years ago.
let me ask, like, when you say it has like a throwback feel to it, do you mean that like some of those older movies, like the acting wasn't very good in them?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's not. I don't think it's that they're
I actually
intentionally being not great actors. I just think that like it is this kind of like low budget practical effects. We got the actors that we got, and
it's
I
not-
could just this seems like something you would pick up at a video store in the 80s.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the
for
next
sure.
movie with that has like the star caliber acting like Split that had the girl that was from The Witch, and she's going to end up being a big actress. It's not. They're not trying to have that kind of caliber.
Can't really pick the rising star out of this cast.
honestly
Right.
it didn't really bother me that much. I don't know. I didn't really.
No.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
You know who I actually really liked was the pregnant girl, because her character takes a fun turn and like becomes kind of the scariest character in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Fun wouldn't be the word I'd use, but yeah.
Like her performance was fun, I thought.
She is
Yeah.
apparently. So I agree with you. She's apparently in the new *Handmaid's Tale*.
But I mean, to Eric's point, like they're not putting a lot on these actors. Like
Right.
it's kind of, I want to say, like, you kind of go from room to room, and like the big sort of shock is these creepy guys outside in these hoods, and then these like weird ass monsters that like end up popping out of people. Like I don't think we're relying a lot on the actors, which is why, like, even when we talk about kind of like some of they're not really plot holes, they're just kind of things that you're supposed to figure out on their own. Like they didn't bother me enough where I didn't like this movie. Like there was enough going for this that I could kind of look past like a lot of those things.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a matter of setting your expectations going in. And if you look at this thing as a whole, ultimately it is kind of a direct-to-video caliber movie, but it owns it and it does it well. So
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, like at the end of the day, like I am like nitpicking a little bit. It does some like really interesting stuff, and it's also, we should say, like it's fairly well paced. So even when it's like meandering a little bit, the sequences themselves have like some internal tension to them that kind of like pulls you through, and then it actually is like clipping along pretty well to the point where by the time you get to the end, it's not even that it feels rushed, because what I like is they like let it takes place all over the course of like one evening. The other movie this reminded me of, I think I mentioned over email, is the Last Shift, I think it was called.
yeah.
Maybe because of the way it was structured, right? Like it's structured in this like spooky things are happening, now they're accelerating, then they're getting worse, and okay, now we have to like confront the like.
I mean, and it starts it starts off pretty intense, right? Like it starts off like you don't really know what's happening, but you know that something insane is happening.
This
So
movie-
I
Yeah,
think
I saw it.
that's one thing that I think I agree, John, is really strong about this, is that even when it's being obtuse, it's still fast paced in a way, and it's a pretty short movie too. So it's like it really kind of carries you along and gives you lots of visual craziness to kind of latch onto, even when the story part of it doesn't
This
exactly
movie
make
is
sense.
I saw a tweet from
significantly better than The Last Shift. I think I would just like to
Oh,
say.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no, I agreed.
Easy. I saw a tweet from Eric last night when he sat down and started watching this, and he was talking about how, wow, right out the gate, and they're going for it, and they really do. And it goes to what Mark was saying. You start out this movie within the first probably 2 minutes, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
As I-
Casey, you
as I-
saw this
Pop
in
off.
theaters, right? You saw,
Yeah.
What did you think? What was your experience watching it a second time?
I still enjoyed it the second time. It was for the same reasons. I knew what was coming more so, but I was able to, the story's there. I knew what I was looking forward to, and it still flowed pretty well.
I can't imagine it would make more sense a second time, but I think this would
No.
be kind of a cool movie to see in theaters, or to see like a special screening of.
I did want to
Yeah.
say too, like I really enjoyed. There's a lot of practical effects. There's a lot of goriness and blood, and I feel like lately we've been having these conversations where more and more lately I'm feeling like the gratuitous stuff isn't working for me, but it kind of works here because it's in this fantastical way, and I think it felt more like it felt in those old movies. There was the only scene
That monster is awesome.
Yeah.
The
100%
like
agree.
bigger monster was so cool.
The only scene that I turned away from was in the beginning when shit first pops off, Joe, and he
Pop
walks
off.
he walks in the room, and the nurse turns around and she's got like pieces of her face missing, and this was
Oh yeah,
this is like
Yeah.
the best line in the
super
movie.
gross.
It's the best line in the movie. She goes, "This isn't my face," and then she just starts like picking at her face, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh.
God." Like, I
Yeah.
turned
Yeah.
my face, but
That
like,
No,
part made me think of Nightbreed. I'm gonna get
Yeah.
the Midian.
but it
I,
was like it was a rare instance lately of me feeling like, wow, that was like a lot of gore, but done in a way that didn't bother me.
See, I would have, the one thing I would have asked for more of was actually more of the like practical monster effects, because they
Was that
give
what you're
you
gonna say, John? You pervert.
Well, you got to be
Yeah.
careful. You got to be careful too, because they are a little, they've got to be obscured to some degree because of the
Well,
nature of them.
sure, but I mean, like they did a great job with that first one, and it's so early in the film that you're kind of like, oh boy, are we in for like what's I was gonna call it Splinter? What's the one the James Gunn movie? God damn it, this is I'm
Slither.
Splinter.
Slither. It's like a
Slither.
Slither situation
Yeah,
where like
Slither.
you just get into like crazier and crazier monster effects. Like that's something I was like pretty in for. And you do like there is kind of like a crescendo toward the end, but there's a period in the middle where you're not getting a whole lot of that. And they set the bar really high right out of the gate, I guess
Yeah.
is my point.
And they did a lot of good stuff with those practical effects that wasn't as in your face, but it was still pretty disturbing. I'm not going to say I loved it because it makes me sound like a weirdo, but the whole angle they had going through this movie between the cop and the nurse and their backstory, talking about how they had lost a child in childbirth and all this stuff, and where that story ends up, it was just fucked up. And you don't see that in movies these days. And while you had some of the practical effects there, it wasn't as in your face as like the first monster we saw in the hall eating the cop and stuff. But still, after they built up this backstory between the cop and the nurse and stuff, and when you see what happens to her, you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things this movie does that I really appreciated, and that is it moves at a really good pace, and it keeps you on your toes. Like you never really know where it's gonna go next, and that for me was like, all right. I mean, and like the atmosphere is so thick. It's a great like combination of things that kind of kept me in it. I feel like.
Yep.
It had the thickness.
So thick.
I like that.
Great girth to this movie.
Yeah.
Viscosity.
Ugh.
So should we call it a day, or what's the?
Sure.
And that's a wrap, folks.
Would you recommend this
done.
movie, Mark?
Yeah, definitely.
I wish there was a movie guide for this. I bet there's not. Joe?
Yeah, I would say it's worth a watch.
Casey?
Most definitely.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Great. Me too. 5 thumbs
Before
up.
we move on, I wanted to say I had sent out a link to Instagram at the end of the day in our discussion in the email chain. Did you guys happen to take a look at that?
I sure didn't, because I was on
No
my
idea
work
what you're talking
computer
about.
and I thought it was going to be something inappropriate.
So there is, I don't think Eric can put it in the feed, but they were talking about the practical effects in this movie. There's a guy that they hired for this movie. I happened to see it pop up on Instagram from the Void Movies Instagram account, but there's a guy named Troy James who is an actor and is also a contortionist who played one of the beasts in this movie later on in the film.
Oh,
This dude who like
down to
walks
the
kind of like
Oh my
upside
God.
down or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm watching
we
it
watched
right
the
now.
video.
I
I think-
remember that one.
This
And
is
whoever's watching this just got my
Shit.
live reaction to that. That
Yeah.
was
Fucked
something.
that
else.
guy is a contortionist, and it's just a video of the guy standing in his in the
Oh.
like production offices, and you're looking at the back of him. He literally bends over backwards and just drops to the ground and starts walking backwards in an arch,
Oh.
and it's creepy as shit.
That's gonna give me goddamn nightmares. You know what he's
Yeah,
doing?
it's.
He's kind of doing the spider walk from The Exorcist, that old deleted scene.
Well,
that
yeah,
they
he's
had to-
doing
But
like I
upside
mean,
down.
but he's
we've
doing
seen
it.
Yeah,
it,
he's
like,
like turning around too.
But he's doing it
Holy
just
shit.
in real life.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we've seen that in like I think the Last Exorcism and like a few other movies, but like this guy's like legit doing it.
I love it. I love it. It says the actual post from the Void movie account says Troy James. This man moves like an inhuman creature and he scares the shit out of us. So we love him. Look for him in the Void, Shadowhunters, and the Strain.
And I could tell you, because I can remember when he popped up, it was after they started going down to the basement, and there was a scene where the cop, it looked like he was in a laundry room or something, and then something rose up behind him. I'm pretty sure that guy was that thing that rose up behind him.
It's funny. It's funny because I remember the exact scene he's in because I remember thinking like, "There's no way that's real."
Yeah,
it was.
It's messed up, man.
I didn't get no sleep because of y'all.
It's true.
Messed up.
It's true. All right, guys. 5 thumbs up from BGH crew. It is now time to do some fan mail.
Someone has brought back the deadliest criminals in the city.
Remember the good old days when guns killed people?
But someone else just brought back the most dangerous cop. You're good and you're dead. Treat Williams, Joe Piscopo, dead heat. You can't keep a good cop dead. Rated R.
Hi, this is Harvey Stevens, Damien from The Omen, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Pretty sure I just made Joe's month with that Joe Piscopo trailer.
Oh man, I was so excited. I loved that movie. That was definitely like an HBO like tape to VCR.
Joe called it before they even said Joe Piscopo. He's like, "Is this Dead Heat?" It's awesome. I have it on VHS.
It's a good one.
Good times. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. First up, Mark, this is a question for you. It's not addressed to you, but I know you're the only one that can actually answer this.
Oh boy.
Your take on the WWE's House of Horror match from this weekend.
Oh man, it was terrible. I mean, it was like really just like the worst. It was really bad. It's kicked off this long discussion about how anytime they try to make a match that happens not in the ring but happens in like a house or on the back of a truck or in a boiler room or in some weird location, it's almost always terrible.
It's never good, yeah. And imagine you're like paid to be in the arena and now you're just watching that on the big screen and you're like, okay. So what happened?
The notable exception was the empty arena match at halftime of the Super Bowl that one year. That was The Rock and Mankind, and that's only because it was so ridiculous.
So
you
what
got
is
The Rock. I mean,
so
The Rock.
You gotta lean into how ridiculous it
So
was.
what was the House of Horrors match, Mark? People who don't know.
It was a match between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. So Bray Wyatt is the kind of heir to the spookiness in WWE. He's got like a fat Cape Fear beard, white guy dreadlock thing going on, Exorcist thing.
Yeah, like a New Orleans kind of vibe.
Yeah. So the first part of the match took place in a house of horrors, a so-called house of horrors, which really just looked like, like your average shitty $50,000 house, but with some random like Blair Witchy stuff in it and some dirty dishes and a fridge that had some writing on the side. So that was the first half of the match. And then they had a normal match in between, and then they finished the match in the ring. So somehow, after getting pinned by a refrigerator, Randy Orton had a refrigerator pushed on top of him, and somehow they managed to both get back to the arena to finish the match.
It's very
Spoiler alert, Mark. I mean, I've got this on the DVR.
I didn't tell you who won. I just told you that they got back to the arena.
As we discussed,
the refrigerator, I assume.
As we discussed, like I just watched WrestleMania with no context. This like what was it, a month ago, 2 months ago? It's very weird to me the idea.
I think it was like 3 weeks ago, actually.
That they're like relaunching, like they've got a new set of spooky characters, like The Undertaker, only by like just being awesome was able to continue that gimmick into modern day, but to then try to do a new spooky gimmick. Like, he was born in like the cartoon times, but he just managed to reinvent himself and stay relevant. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. They're like, let's go back to that well.
Well, I think that I think that Bray Wyatt's actually a great performer, but he's not being done any favors, certainly. I think one of the funniest things that someone pointed out is that in the thing that they're shooting, it's dark, but at the time that it was aired in the arena, it was still daylight out. So it was a very clear disconnect between, it's just like, it's very strange. Yeah, it's hard to imagine how these things like actually, I mean, I guess with wrestling, it's like it goes on every week. They're never going to get canceled, so they can kind of do whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't matter if it's super high quality.
Yeah, don't they own like half of the Sci-Fi
Saturday Night
Channel?
Live?
Oh man, Saturday Night Live's been good.
So
recently,
Toby sent that email in. Toby also sent me something else on Twitter this week that really blew me away, which is so I've been getting way into Jim Cornette's podcast. Jim Cornette's an old wrestling hand who's been around since probably the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s maybe. He's kind of been, he's done a ton of stuff on his own. He's been in WWE, WCW, all that stuff. And he's just really loud, and he's a fast talker. He's very smart. He's very passionate. He likes to scream.
If you're a casual fan, you may remember him as the guy that used to hit people with a tennis racket.
Yes, he's the tennis racket guy.
He's the John. There we go.
Like,
I did know that guy.
Turns out he's actually like an insanely smart dude, and he's really fun to listen to, and he has his own podcast. There's also like hundreds of hours of interviews on YouTube where he's talking shit about everybody else that's ever been in wrestling, and it's really fascinating. But anyway, so I'd never seen this, but Toby sent me this clip that apparently is famous, in like wrestling internet circles, where in 1994, after a card that he had put together, he was in a car with a bunch of wrestlers trying to get Wendy's, and when they didn't have his order ready, like they weren't making his order, they were just sitting at the drive-thru, and when he found out they weren't making his order, he fucking gets out of the car and starts just like an expletive-laden rant at this woman working at Wendy's. It's like one of the most epic things I've ever seen. Like, it gets out of control way fast. And
it was not a very politically correct tantrum that he threw. Let's just say.
Yeah, like he jumps.
Wait, he places his order and they just do nothing about it?
Yeah, because they thought, like, it turned, like, they were like, oh, do you really want us
He
to
ordered so much food because he was in a car full of wrestlers that they thought he was kidding. That
Right.
He ordered that much food.
First of all, it's hilarious because everybody in this video is Southern, so he's saying they're not fixing the food. Like, he's freaking out about it. And it was funny, so Toby sent me his video, I'm watching it, and I started talking to Mark about it, and he's like, oh yeah, that's like really famous. You never heard of that? I'm like, no. It's incredible.
God, way to make me sound like such a knob. Like, oh, you haven't seen it? But I mean, that's
what you did.
Probably.
You don't know the infamous WWE Wendy's video?
Do not watch it at work, or if you do, make sure you have headphones on. It is very not safe for work. Anyway, thank you, Toby, for
just in the audio sets. There's no,
They all start fucking at the end.
That's what makes it infamous. Spoiler alert, Joe.
We got 2 emails.
Eric's just.
We had 2 emails this week. One might have been on Twitter about people who were thanking us for inspiring them to start their own podcast.
Oh.
I like to think the Eric Show had something to do with that, John. But first up, Dan and Danny says, "Hey guys, longtime listeners of the show. I'd like to say thank you so much to the whole of you for giving us the confidence and know-how by setting a great example on how to host a movie podcast. I've been listening since around episode 200 and have listened to probably 75% of your shows in the classics folder and have always wanted to start a podcast myself. Ever since the Eric Show and his insight into how to get started, I finally decided what the heck and gave it a go. So thank you guys so much. Your show is great, and thanks Eric for the knowledge on where to start. The name of the show is What the F Are We Watching? And that is from Dan and Danny.
Danny, you can just say that you didn't bother with the episodes before I started. You don't have to say 75%. Like people know. Yeah. People know there's no reason to go back before 100.
Let's see. Next up,
no comment.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep my train of thought here. I'm trying to sift through a lot. First up, Cody.
It's a pretty smooth transition.
Cody says he enjoyed The Void, and then he's got some spoilery questions, which I'm not going to read.
Avoid the noise.
6 wrestlers doing butt stuff at Wendy's.
.com.
Cody goes on to say, Eric should play Lakeview Cabin Collection for BGH Plays, or on his own. Or what does he think about the upcoming Friday the 13th game? Did any of you end up playing Until Dawn or Outlast? Casey?
Nope.
I played Outlast a bit. It is pretty damn scary.
I think that Friday the 13th game looks cool, but I also think there's about a billion ways that could go really wrong and be terrible to actually play.
Well,
so
there's a
Is it out now?
it's
No,
close
yeah.
to being out, I believe.
It's like
Okay.
a beta or
I
something.
believe it's imminent.
The masturbate.
if you're worried that that Friday the 13th game will ruin the franchise in your eyes, just play Dead by Daylight because it looks like it's going to be pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I
I can say
And
that
it was scary and I was very bad.
I'm
at it.
excited to watch streams of the Friday the 13th game like once, and that's about it. Just kind of see. What
I'm
it's about.
I'm looking at this game Outlast. Like, I don't think I could play this.
No,
Outlast got me made fun of by Colleen for a good week or so because I actually yelled out loud somewhere in like the first half hour of it.
But that's like what so many of these games are. They're like, I mean, listen, it might be a good game. I'm not saying it's not, but it's like those videos that you used to send people in like early internet days where it was like, can you see which thing is like the different color? And you would like stare at this video really close.
Yeah.
And then it would just be like a fucking scary clown face would pop up.
until
Oh, it's totally jump scare the game.
That stuff still gets me
Those
yeah,
were
I mean,
great.
every damn time.
Until Dawn has gotten a lot of praise too. I've heard a lot of great things about that. It's basically like a slasher where you play it out and make decisions, and like if you make the wrong decision, you can like instantly get people killed. Like, oh, I made this decision, and the dude just bust through the wall and chainsawed my friend. Like, so there's a lot of streaming going on of that game also, so it's really good. Joe, this one's for you. With the success of Beauty and the Beast, what other live-action Disney movies would you want to see?
Oh dear God.
I immediately had the worst thought ever, which is Bambi.
Shoot
Come
that
on,
thing,
dude.
man. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, like I never get excited about these. We did see Beauty and the Beast, and I actually thought it was really good. I haven't liked any of the Alice in Wonderlands. I thought those were kind of dookie. I haven't seen Jungle Book, but I've heard really good things. I don't know. I would love to see, just because it was like one of my favorites when I was a kid, but like an updated version of what is it, Darby O'Giddly or whatever. That
Darby
is.
O'Gill.
Yeah, and the Little People. Like I think that could be really fun.
Yeah.
Or which isn't like that. That's kind of in the vein of like Pete's Dragon when they did an updated version of that. Or I mean, The Black Hole. I love that movie.
Black Hole's that's already live action though, Joe.
Yeah, but you know they've done.
Now
like,
you're just
updated,
naming movies.
Joe, I
Meet
thought
Joe
of you
Black,
last week.
I think would be
I
a
thought
good
of you
one.
last week because I was doing trivia and they always start with like a visual round, and it was like name these obscure Disney movies from the poster alone, and I learned that there was a movie called The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
you know what
Wait a
would be a
second,
really
wait,
good
you
one?
guys just knew that was a how is
I
that?
heard of it.
Yeah,
I've never
I've seen
it.
that.
It stars
You know
Kurt
what would be a
Russell,
really good one
apparently.
is Sword in the Stone. I feel like that could be a lot of fun.
Oh,
I'd like to see
yeah.
that.
The Black Cauldron would be fun.
Oh,
I
my
mean, Joe,
God.
isn't
But that wasn't Disney, was it?
Yeah,
no,
it
that was, but that's like
Yeah.
their like black sheep of all their movies. Like
Right.
they don't speak of it.
Why? Wait, why?
Oh, it was like it was a huge flop at the box office. Like it's super dark. There's like
It's
no
pretty
music.
dark.
It's pretty
There's-
scary.
There's really it doesn't feel like a Disney movie. Like there's no music in it. Like there's nothing that really ties it to Disney. Yeah, they don't speak of it. Like I think
mean-
it was released on VHS, which I think I actually have somewhere
haven't we
around
talked
here,
about
but-
this? Isn't that the one that was like deemed too scary or something like that?
Yeah.
Or is that something
it was
else?
just, it was-
I had a Black Cauldron like book, like a read along book from when I
Oh,
was
yeah.
little, and that used to scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, I had a
Well, it was
little.
based off of a trilogy.
I had a stuffed Gurgi, like
Yes.
the little like
Yeah.
funny guy in there.
Um,
Yeah, they had all of these plans to like put it in the parks and like set up. They had like a Gurgi's like confectionery or something where they were gonna sell like different things, and like they scrapped it all because that movie did not well.
Yeah. The Black Hole is really cool, and now that you're making me think of that, Joe.
Yeah,
I didn't see it till I was an adult, and I remember being like, "This is the weirdest, like, bizarro version of Star Wars I've ever seen."
it's so strange. There's like a robot that like Slim Pickens
With
does the
big
voice
eyes,
of.
it's like,
Yeah.
and it was the first.
Oh.
I swear I read it was like the first movie to ever have like fully computer generated graphics or something. There was some like milestone that it
I don't
represented.
remember that. I remember I had a like a 45 of the storybook where you like it was one of those like the bell rings and then you turn the page like you read along type thing. Oh, the memories.
Anyway, that's from Cody. Thank you for that. Info at
Just for
horror.com.
historical record, I just wanted to say, because I thought I'd heard about it, Disney did buy the rights for the entire trilogy that Black Cauldron's built on for a remake. But
Oh
there's
yeah,
no
yeah.
news
They
on if they're
planned on
making it.
They planned on doing like a whole thing around it, but I think because the original just did so shitty, like they.
Is that
I don't
the
think
one?
No,
I'm
this is
thinking
like
of?
last year they bought the rights.
Oh really?
Is that
Yeah.
the one that I'm thinking of that was like controversial because of how scary it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. It scared the shit out of kids.
I feel like we almost. I feel like we
I think
almost
it's
did
actually
it.
5 books, Casey.
All right.
Yeah,
Because
maybe.
I read to your point though, like I think I only read 3 of them. Maybe there's like a core trilogy and then there's like 2 more. I don't know.
It's the
We should probably
Chronicles
do
of
some more.
Prydain.
Yeah, Lloyd Alexander.
I feel like we almost did it on the show for some reason, but I do not remember.
That would be a stretch. I don't think Joe would allow it. So
Oh, I would love it.
I think there was talk of that. There was that or another cartoon one.
I wanted to quickly shout out to BC for making a GIF out of a kind of amazing moment on the show that I had actually completely forgotten about, which is Joe saying something about Skungline Island or whatever. You can see in the video now.
Skungline ride.
Skungline ride.
It's a skunk ride. You go on it.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I like that.
I would have been happy if it was just a gif of John laughing. It was so great.
Angelic.
we had a good time. We had a good time on that show.
Good chuckle fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
I'm trying to find that creepy.
Yeah, where'd you go, buddy? You still with us?
Trying to find that creepy Uncle Traveling Matt image that was given to me earlier. No, I can't find it. I'll have to dig it out of the chat. What's on Twitter?
And throw it at me quick. So we usually use 2 hashtags for the show. The first one being if you're listening to the back episodes and you think something is worth our attention, tweet it to us with the hashtag BGH Classics and we'll read it. I haven't been on the show in 2 weeks, so Lord knows if these have been read or not. This one's from JHar0. It goes from 0 to fuck monster in like 2 seconds. Episode 211, Prometheus.
Yeah, it's true.
Yep. Next one.
God, 211? That was 200 episodes ago? Holy shit.
There you go.
We've been doing this forever. Wow. Next one's from Library O Congress. John says, I think the actress had the right look for the character. Eric says, I'd watch her if she were on MILF Hunter, episode 121.
Oh.
Good 30 Rock shout out though.
Yeah.
Yep. The last one is from Stovall Cody 42. Joe, Brad Pitt can do no wrong. World War Z.
It's true.
That's true. And we're
Meet Joe Black. We've
yeah.
circled all the way around.
So
Wow.
are you on his side in the divorce show?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I figured.
Okay, awesome. We also use the hashtag AskBGH. If you have a question, tweet it with the hashtag AskBGH and I'll read it. This first one's from Chupacabro7.
Mm-hmm.
How about a segment at the beginning of each show that Casey synopsizes the movie like Joe Bob Briggs, Vampire Foo, Chainsaw Foo?
I like it.
Nice. This next one I'm not going to read. It's from RJNC, and it's not a question, so it doesn't get read on the show. Sorry, buddy. Throw a question mark in there next time.
Oh wait, I thought it was amusing. Never mind. All right. So it goes. You filter.
What do you think? What's the vote? Should I read it?
Now I kind of want to hear it.
I haven't read it, so I cannot say either way.
I assume it has something to do with us not reviewing horror movies and blah blah blah.
No, actually, this one, it's kind of a weird one. So I'm not gonna promote his Twitter, but I will read it. I just realized Eric's personality is basically a liberal Donald Trump.
Wow, that's deep. I don't know what that means exactly, but I don't like it.
I was on board with it. I don't really get it either, but I'm amused.
Who the hell knows? Next one is from Stovall Cody 42. Since they weren't on last week's, what are Mark/Casey's thoughts on #1 year enders for the last 7 years, such as favorite? I can't make heads or tails of that sentence. Let me try that again.
Because Cody wrote in and laid out the last 7 years worth of what we picked as #1s in the site, and then asking you like, okay, what do you think of these / like what's the best one? And
Oh, dang.
I think.
Wait, didn't we answer that last time?
Yeah, but he's
We
saying
did,
two
but
people
he's asking
weren't.
because they weren't on, Joe.
Two people weren't.
I mean,
on
I'll
the
just
show.
go ahead and say Cabin in the Woods.
I can.
I don't know
There
if
you
that
go.
was even on the list.
Correct.
Yeah,
Give me
I can
two.
go with that.
I can. I got it right here. Okay. So the last 7 years were The Witch, It Follows. He refused to count Snowpiercer, so he went with the Babadook that year. Evil Dead, Cabin in the Woods, Attack the Block, and Piranha 3D.
Ooh, Attack the Block. I didn't realize that was number one.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite movie I've ever watched for the show.
I'm still gonna go with Cabin in the Woods, and It Follows didn't make my list that year, so because I was the one that had you guys all dumbfounded.
It's just a great list. Like, we've reviewed so much crap. Looking back at the list like that actually made me go like, wow, it's been a pretty decent 7 years of horror. And honestly, like, the crap's gonna fade away, right, as time goes on.
I mean, the reality is now there's just so many like good channels for independent movies to get out, and also like we're just not pissed off about everything that we see. So I think that opens us up to a world of good movies. I think the horror world is better off now than it was when we first started, for sure. Because that was 2007, and that was a lifetime ago. Next one's from Dookie Time. This one's not a question, but I'm gonna read it because it's not RJNC. It's from Skizbot. I like when Frank from Hellraiser made Brundlefly come out of that lady. That's kind of a spoiler, but you would have to imagine from the way we talked about it that something like that would happen.
When the guy kind of comes out in his final form at the end, he looks a lot like Frank from Hellraiser if he wasn't bloody.
Yeah, like a blue Frank. Yeah. He was like blue. All right, next one's from PS Gothier 1313. Any of you guys watching Lucha Underground on Netflix or El Rey? Currently addicted.
I keep meaning to catch up with it. I feel like, especially with the way I've been trending lately, I might be into it. It's like the first season's on Netflix now, so.
I really enjoyed the first season. I think it's pretty fun, and I could definitely see myself getting into it. I just watched so much other shit that it just doesn't.
Is it basically just all produced like a show, sort of?
Yes.
So it's
a show
like,
within a show.
So
it's
like
produced
the audience are actors and they're on a stage or something.
Well, the audience is real. I mean, they do like real quote unquote real wrestling matches, but they do all these like really super like stylized grindhousey like B movie segments in between to tie them all together.
Yeah.
Like it's
your backstage stuff is like soap operas.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I think it's really interesting. I just didn't.
Are there any people I would know wrestling?
Rey Mysterio after the first season.
Oh yeah,
I know.
You'd recognize that person.
Is La Parka there? Otherwise, I'm not interested.
You know, I don't think La Parka is there.
What about Juventud?
I'm not gonna watch unless La Parka.
What about Juventud Guerrera?
No, I think you're.
I'm naming dudes who are like all like 70 right now.
Your late 90s lucha touchstones might be a little bit off. I don't know. I'd say go ahead and watch it. All right, next one is
Juventud
from
Guerrera is
Fem.
only 42 years old, Mark. He could totally be on there.
It's cool, but he can't. There's a ceiling to the jumping. You have to stop doing the jumping at some point.
It's cold, but it's not too cold. I'll wear a La Parka.
Yuck. This next one's from Femme Fatalisms. What's your favorite movie guide, quote unquote, sin, pagan worldview using the H word?
It's up. There's no contest. It's upper male nudity.
Upper male nudity with a bullet.
Yeah.
Like the way he says it, it's just like, wait, what?
I like it occasionally like gets on like, well, I mean, I think my all-time favorite is Problem Solved Without Prayer.
Yes. That's also very strong.
From the satanic movie Monster House.
Yeah, they were super upset about Monster House, which made me laugh. Did we do Monster House on the show?
No, I just think when we started reading Movie Guide, we just like started looking up children's movies or things that they would be pissed off. I don't even know how we ended up on
Maybe
Monster
we
House.
did it during Paranorman. We like looked at it.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
We got a tweet, and let me see while we're talking. I'll see if I can find it. But someone actually mentioned that because of this show, I guess she's a teacher. She knew that one of her students plagiarized movieguide.org because they used like.
Oh my God! Stop it.
Moral relativity.
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines. I'm gonna find it while we're talking.
Of all the things that you could plagiarize, like.
Is this recently?
Oh, here it is, right here from at Femme Fatalism. Had a student plagiarize from a movie guide review. I realized because they mentioned solved problem with prayer. Thanks, BGH.
Wow.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah,
With
that's
that.
unbelievable.
And we're just full of like unintentional callbacks tonight.
Yeah.
Really doing it. Next one is from Magagog. Magagog?
Now I've seen Chud. It's Gog and Magog.
Magagagaga. When will? Oh, thank you, Joe. I didn't really commit. You did. When will be the Void sequel?
I don't think they'll do a sequel. I don't think they will for this.
I think they
I
wrap
don't
that
think it
up in
needs
a
one.
pretty definitive. Although, you know, if Phantasm had sequels, maybe the Void will have sequels. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
And
Maybe they'll cross streams and they'll show up in Phantasm 6.
Jesus Christ. 15 years from now, we'll be complaining about the Void and Phantasm crossover. Last one. Oh, this is a good one. It's from Nick Almond Scott. Alien Covenant is coming out soon. Any box office predictions for the film? Will it make more than Prometheus worldwide?
People seem very excited about it. A, and I would say B, never underestimate the power of the name Alien actually being on there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, for sure.
I think that there were a lot of, for as many people who love Prometheus, I think there are a lot of people who are kind of disappointed in it also. I remember I was a little mixed because you guys made me realize how dumb a lot of the plot points were, even though I walked out liking it. So I wonder if a lot of people will wait opening weekend to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, the other thing to note here though is like they're just getting so much better at promoting these things overseas. I just feel like the distribution problems and like the jumps they've made in distribution have actually like we're going to see this blow Prometheus internationally out of the water would be my guess.
Yeah, well it says Alien in it. You know what I mean? Like that's huge right there.
It also has in the trailer that alien on the spaceship ramming its head into the glass. Like it's
pretty awesome.
In the least
so are we gonna do actual predictions?
Oh god, I'd have to know what Prometheus did.
I'm not in the state of mind right now.
We haven't done it in a while. I'll do it. I'll make a guess.
No, well, we have like 3 weeks. Like we can do it next week.
Is it?
Why don't everybody do some research and then come back and?
Okay, great. I will do 0 minutes of research. And
Joe's gonna do some research for the next 2 weeks.
Look good, feel good.
I would need to know, is it like an extended long weekend or whatever?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of factors. I got to know.
I'm pretty sure it's
guys, you have the whole week. John, just put you on notice. You have the whole week to figure it out.
Yeah, Eric, I'm not going to tell you anymore. You can look it up.
We were doing this for
this weekend.
We were doing this for a while, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we'll keep doing it again in the future. So.
That's an enthusiastic thumbs up from Eric.
Just take the week, pray on it, and we'll catch up next week.
Info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Also, we're on Snapchat and Instagram in case you want just like weird random snippets of our life that then disappear forever. I don't know. People seem to be into
mostly pictures of my dog right now.
What are we doing next week?
The Black Coat's Daughter.
Nice. Is that like a period piece? That's what it sounds like.
I have no idea.
No idea.
I don't think so.
And
sounds like a sell pick.
If you are a patron, keep an eye out in your Patreon messages to find out how you can join us on Slack every day.
Oh God,
all
help
day.
us all.
It's gonna be fun.
Let's get her done.
Spoken like a true poet, John. That's gonna do it for our review of The Void. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Adios.
See you.
Deuces.
Bye-bye.